Hey, I'm Butterfly.
Hey, I'm Firefly.
Have you ever wondered if we aren't being told the truth about everything?
What have we been lied to about? Join us as we have conversations and ask questions about everything. We invite you to keep an open mind and consider the unfathomable.
Let's break the chains that enslave our minds. Come on, let's go down the rabbit hole.
What's up, Butterfly?
Hey, Firefly, how's it going?
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
I'm so
It's been
stoked.
a long time.
I know. Let's do another episode.
Okay.
I'm so excited. Today, I was thinking we've kind of talked about like ghettoization, like this concept of ghettoization.
That's like a really weird long word.
It's kind of
Is it a real word?
it's kind of like a paleogeneticist.
Oh, yeah. It
It's
reminds
like
me of that.
ghettoization, But I don't know. I mean, it's a big word, but it's kind of it's in my opinion, it's kind of a crappy word.
Yeah. Well, when you hear the word ghetto, it kind of like immediately brings to
I don't
mind
want to live
kind
in
of
a ghetto.
not a nice place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it seems like we almost like fetishize the ghetto in our culture.
Yeah. It's kind of gross. It's like it seems like the ghetto kind of stuff is like considered kind of cool now.
It's like cool and
Yeah.
ideal. Like
Yeah.
it's good to be ignorant and
Yeah.
kind of prone to violence
Yeah.
and like real shallow.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like the way to be.
Like a lot of those influencers, they come
Yeah.
across as very like vapid and like very shallow, and
Yeah.
they're all about like, just getting like the butt injections and the lip
Yeah.
injections and like,
Yeah.
just kind of doing like really kind of simple stuff, but it's glamorized.
It's so glamorous and it's just like, I don't know, like what do we idealize these
I
days?
don't know.
I think the ideal person is kind of like their pants are hanging off their butt.
What is up with that?
And then like tattoos all over their face.
Yeah.
And then like,
Like the more tattoos, the better.
yeah.
It's like, I don't think really a lot of people even really think about those or put any real thought into them. They just like go out one night after they're drinking and just get one.
I'm getting a tattoo. And
Yeah.
like
And they never just stop at one.
getting a tattoo seems to me like watching the Super Bowl. It's like, it's what I do. The media just kind of, it's like, what you say? It's like, I don't know, like
And
getting a tattoo and then that
have
seems,
you
go
have
ahead.
you noticed how it like, it's like gone to the point where it's so mainstream. Like before, you would never see somebody with tattoos like working in a doctor's office, for example. And now I remember I just took my dad to a doctor's appointment not too long ago, and this guy, I don't know what he was. I don't know if he was like a nurse or what his deal was, but he was like doing the blood pressure and everything. And he had all these tattoos all over his arms and like
Yeah.
earrings in his ears and a tattoo on his neck. And I don't know. I mean, it kind of grossed me out. Like it was I felt like it kind of looks dirty. Like
I think those fears are warranted.
I don't really want somebody like doing medical
Me
stuff on me,
neither.
even if it's just like blood pressure. Like
Well, I've already kind of got an aversion to the medical industry in general.
Yeah.
But then you have some dude with tats like administering like kind of like
doing procedures.
life affecting, maybe not life threatening, but life affecting things.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
Because you're like, I don't know if your judgment is really all that great.
not good. You got, yeah, like
you have a tattoo of like Minnie Mouse on your forearm.
Yeah.
And, like, another one of like your grandma or something on
You're
your,
kind of
I don't know.
media head.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's the ghettoization. It's media, and it's like, oh, well, this is like validated by the media.
Yeah. And
right?
it's cool because
It's cool.
like the influencers are doing it.
The influencers do it, and then I saw this on TV, and that's when when I see people with tattoos, it's almost like you remember those infomercials where it would be like as seen on TV, like the product was like as seen. Oh no, it would be like you'd go to Costco, and you would see like their new crock pot, and the crock pot it would say as seen on TV.
Yeah, yeah. They even have whole stores like that.
Yeah.
As seen on TV.
As seen on TV.
Mhm.
It's like, and that's like a validation.
Yeah.
Right? That's like, oh, well, this is,
Oh, I saw that on TV.
it's good.
I want that.
It's, yeah.
Yeah.
Now I fit in.
Right.
I fit in.
And that's such a good point because, like, regarding the tattoo thing, like now, like before, you would never see really, you didn't see actors on TV with them unless they were like the bad guy. And now it's like on every TV show, like
Yeah.
everybody's got them and it's like whatever. So it's, I feel like they're definitely pushing that to be like, oh, that's mainstream and you should get a lot of tattoos.
I
That's just one of the things.
I see some girls and like I'm like, wow, she's really pretty, but the tattoos kind of make it lame.
Yeah.
Like they kind of almost detract from your beauty. Why did you do that?
Well, I understand that either like I was looking at some headshot photography recently of this photographer's work. And there was this one young lady who she looked really pretty and it was showing like different shots of her. And she was wearing like a black turtleneck and she looked really pretty. She had like really pretty red hair. And then the next picture of her, she had like a low cut shirt and her entire chest was tattooed with like all these like flowers and stuff. And I thought, wow, that's really going to limit your what casting, like what you can, you know what I mean?
Kind of.
But maybe not because it's so mainstream now.
These days, maybe
But
that's like a prerequisite.
I know. But then I always think like, I don't know, like I get tired of stuff. Like I'd rather wear a necklace and then I can take it off,
Yeah.
like because if you've got that on you permanently, like that's going to clash with certain
Why
things.
don't you just have like a sweatshirt like sewed onto your skin forever?
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know, it's kind of what it's like.
and it's going to clash with certain things. Like,
Yeah.
so, if you're
It's
wearing,
kind of busy.
it's kind of busy and you don't, maybe like it's not going to go with stripes or whatever. Like, I don't know. To me, it just seems like it would be easier just to
I don't know. It's so weird.
wear a
It's like
necklace.
this it's like this new phenomena of just fitting in,
Yeah,
you know,
following.
following. Because I remember tattoos weren't really that big when I was in high school.
Mm-mm.
Like, I didn't really know anybody who had a tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did see somebody that had a tattoo, it was like, whoa,
Yeah,
that dude's kind of
it's
gnarly.
gnarly.
Kind of.
I think what it is like everybody wants to be more gnarly than the last guy.
Yeah.
It's like I can be more gnarly than you. I'm going to have two tattoos. Oh, well, I can be more gnarly than that. I'm going to have eight.
Well,
Everybody wants to be weirder than the next person.
what you can kind of see in the ghettoization of our culture is what's the ideal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the ideal is like perfect six pack, tattoos, and I'm kind of prone to violence. I'll kick your ass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like also like being stupid is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Have you noticed?
Yeah. It's like the dumber, the cooler.
Like when was World War II? I don't know, dude. It doesn't matter.
Totally. Like if you watch like a lot of these YouTubers, um, they are just not very smart. And like they do really dumb things and then they're all like sitting around laughing at each other and then like they kind of put this out there to the younger generation like this is cool, this is fun, and then the kids are like that guy's got 1 million followers, it must be cool.
You know what it reminds me of? Idiocracy.
Totally.
Because in Idiocracy, remember they are like
you were so dumb.
How can you saying all that smart stuff? You're so gay.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the way it is now.
Well, so do you think that was predictive programming?
Totally.
They've been talking about, they have been talking about like wanting to dumb us down and they've conquered the whole education system and trying to make people dumber.
You know what I notice is these people are very well versed in stupid shit, but they don't have any like real knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Like if you talk to these people about the dynamics of some freaking video game, they'll be like,
oh, yeah.
They'll go into like gnarly detail about a video game
because they sit and play them all day long.
All day long. Or, like talking about your tattoos, they'll go into gnarly detail about the tattoo and, well, this is this kind of ink and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you know a lot about kind of useless stuff. And I think maybe that's kind of what they want.
Yeah.
Because it's all about corralling attention, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because if they fill up their heads with all the useless stuff, they won't be paying attention or listening to all the really important stuff. You know what I mean?
That's another thing about the ghettoization of culture too, is it's kind of like when you kind of go to them and you say, they're building a digital prison and your rights are eroding and your freedoms are eroding. And they're like, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care.
They don't care.
you're not cool. I noticed that like if you're not cool, you don't have any credence.
Hmm.
And how do you be cool? Like what's ideal is like UFC kind of guys and like tattoos and ghetto and you notice when they talk, they kind of speak like this broken ebonics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's kind of like using hip hop slang.
It's weird. It's
Yeah.
super weird.
And
It's
it's
like bad. It's like they're purposely using bad grammar.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's cool to be stupid
Yeah.
and to be smart's really kind of lame. But if you're smart about certain things, then it's cool.
Yeah.
Like when you get some of these know-it-alls, they come on and they act like they know all, but all they really are knowing is all the Kool-Aid they've been drinking. Like they are very well versed in their Kool-Aid,
Hmm.
but they never kind of step back and think about like the big picture or what's real. Or the other thing I kind of notice about this ghettoization is we don't have the same values
No.
as we used to. Like you and I were born into an America where, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was still pretty ghetto.
Debaucherous.
It was debaucherous for sure, but we had maybe a higher standard of living.
Yeah, we still had like a memory of like some classy stuff. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like we could still think about it wasn't such a like a distant history to us that there were some classy things that took
I
place.
watched Cape Fear with Gregory Peck. Came
Mhm.
out in 1964. I watched it recently.
I think they remade that too. They did.
With Robert De Niro,
Yeah.
which is weird because Robert De Niro, when he played the bad guy, he was all covered in tattoos. And that was like in the 90s, right?
That those were the bad guys
Yeah.
like that.
But in the 60s, when they made it, I can't remember the actor's name that played the bad guy, but he had no tattoos.
Uh-huh.
He had, as a matter of fact, he was kind of clean cut, and I was noticing when they show the town and when they show like all the people, everybody walked around in suits
Right.
and they had
People
really nice clothes.
people used to dress nicely and
Yeah,
know how to dress for certain occasions.
yeah,
Like people would dress up to go to church. People would dress up to go on an airplane,
yeah.
and now it's like everybody's just like slobs. Like,
Total slobs.
they go to the airport and get on an airplane and they just look like they're in their pajamas and they're just like trashy looking. And it's like,
Girls have become kind of really trashy looking too.
yeah,
Like having your butt and boobs all just hanging out all the time. And
yeah.
then also like tattoos and just kind of like being a slut.
Mhm.
Like I think being a slut is kind of like new cool.
Yeah.
I'm a slut, what?
And the way people dress affects their behavior.
Yeah,
It really does.
it
When you're
does.
dressed up really nice,
Yeah.
you act differently than when you're just, in some like old pajamas and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
And I
So,
think so. I think somehow the media virus has caused this.
mhm,
We've kind of regressed and we've become more degenerate, I
I
think.
think so too.
We're more degenerate people.
Hmm.
And when you walk around and you just kind of sample some of the culture out there, you kind of just get this bad taste in your mouth and you
Hmm.
just go, God, no, like,
My gosh. Maybe a slight epiphany here.
yeah,
Do you think they're doing this on purpose to sort of either like weed out who the degenerates are, or because like the quote unquote elites, they're not doing all these things. They still show up in suits. And
yeah.
I don't think that like
Al Gore doesn't have tattoos
I
on his
don't think
face.
Al Gore is all tattooed. No. So they through the media, they push all this stuff and these ideas out there to like the common person, but they're not actually doing these things. So do you think this is a way for them to sort of separate the
Could be.
you know
Well, like, what if a tattoo is like a litmus test? Like, if you go get a tattoo, you probably go get a vaccine. Because if you go get a tattoo, it's kind of like I do what the media tells me to do.
right?
And I go get a vaccine too,
Yeah.
you know? And so maybe tattoos are kind of a quick identifier. They're like, oh, okay, this is one of our clone ones.
You're definitely in a certain group of followers for sure. So
I almost
they can
kind of,
see that.
I mean, I don't want to like make a blatant statement because there's a lot of people that have tattoos now.
Hmm.
Like it's really amazing how many people have tattoos.
It might be like, do you think it's the majority of the population or maybe half and half?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if it's kind of like an identifier.
Hmm.
Like they were MK Ultra mind controlled to go get those.
Hmm.
And that's what, because like you were saying, you see kind of like a pretty girl and all of a sudden she goes and, you know, or like it's kind of like a mind virus.
Hmm.
Like think about, have you ever seen, they'll have like the girl who's 18 years old and she's really pretty and she's wearing a nice dress and it's her graduation picture and she's just all American girl, right? And then they show her after 4 years of college and feminism like rotted her brain.
And she's a disaster.
And she's shaved her head
Yeah.
and she's got tattoos and she's like fat now and she's got this
Pierce.
angry kind of AOC 10,000 yard stare
Yeah.
looking.
Yeah.
And you're like, what happened?
What happened?
And I think it's like a mind virus. It's like a conditioning that they go through. And
That's total mind control.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they get indoctrinated in college
They get indoctrinated.
or through social media.
And social media.
Yeah.
I've always said academia is a very potent Kool-Aid.
Mhm.
And then also the social media kind of works in conjunction. So I think once they get kind of a certain narrative at school, they go home and then there's bubbles in social media that they find
Mhm.
from that narrative in school.
Right.
And so
And they
turns
feel like
them,
they feel like they fit in or something. Like,
which is so weird because they were such beautiful girls.
yeah, but maybe they had like, a bad day or a bad experience or whatever, and they got bummed out about something, and then, they felt like they didn't fit in or something for that week or whatever it was. And then so they went and like found this other group that, quote unquote accepted them, and they follow whatever that social media group is telling them to do.
That's interesting.
Hmm.
Have you ever heard of Friedrich Nietzsche? Nietzsche. He's a philosopher
Oh,
from
yeah,
like
yeah.
the 30s. Nietzsche.
Yeah.
A lot of people say Hitler like studied him or whatever, but we got to do a Hitler one.
Well, we will.
Yeah. But anyways, I digress. Friedrich Nietzsche, he had this idea that there was a thing called slave morality.
Mm.
And so there was um, like he was kind of a cult member, Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yeah.
So his whole juxtaposition was the Romans were the dominant force, and the Christians were. So he suggests that Christianity was a reactionary morality. It's just all Christianity is just looking at the dominant morality of the Romans and creating an antithetical morality in reaction to that. And I don't agree with that premise, but I also think that there might be something to this notion of a value system that's completely reactionary. Like you create like your own morality that's in reaction to something. And I'm almost thinking like all the tattoos and the dumbing down and the ghettoization is kind of like anti-Christian.
Mm-hmm.
It's very anti-Christian. And it's kind of a reaction to Christianity. It's like, no, you know what? I'm a slut. It's fine. I had sex with 100 dudes in one day. I filmed it.
Ew.
It was so cool. Did you hear about that?
I heard. That's so gross.
And the mom like totally arranged it.
How do you even have time for that?
I guess they were quick. There was some dynamics. We maybe do an episode about that, but I don't know. But anyways, my point is like it seems like the ghettoization value system is kind of a reaction to Christianity. And maybe the media is like teaching these people to be degenerate and immoral.
I think the media is definitely teaching them to be degenerate and immoral. I think for sure, because everything, like I think we've talked about before, like every TV show now or, show on Netflix or every movie, they all have to push these ideas that they're trying to push so hard right now. Like so I've been watching this show on Netflix that I really like, and it went on for 7 seasons, and they've got to constantly like throw in
Severance.
no, a different one. It's called Younger, and it's really cute. It's about this lady who looks really young, and so she poses as like a younger woman to get a job, and
Yeah.
it's cute because it's in New York. I love the fashion. It's just
When does it take place?
it takes place like recently. Like I
Okay.
think it was like it just ended like right around 2020, maybe
So it's not a
2021.
period piece. It's
No,
like,
it's all modern and
okay.
everything, but everybody's sleeping around. They have like, it's kind of like Sex in the City. They all have like none of the relationships last. And there's like everybody's just kind of a lot of people are, okay with just like being gay one week or whatever. But it kind of started out fairly normal. But by the end of like, I'm like in the last season now, they are like throwing in all this trans stuff. And like one of the main characters is an artist and somebody found a piece of her work from like 10 years prior and it was called something about gypsies and trannies and so they labeled her transphobic and like it destroyed her career and so they had to, in the next scene, they had to have some trans people come in. And they were like, this whole like time I'm watching this show, the acting has been really good. And they have these obviously trans people. They were like men that were dressed like women. It was
That's
very,
a mad.
yeah, and they were such bad actors. Like it kind of ruined the scene. And I'm like, okay, so now in the last season of this show, they're like really hardcore pushing this whole trans thing and
Well, we've talked
don't
about
be
that.
trans
They
don't
have a
be
lobby.
transphobic. Yeah, don't be transphobic because it'll ruin your life and your career. And so they were pushed and all the characters were like, "Oh, yeah, you can't really say that, it's not correct." And they're like pushing this narrative and I'm like, gag, like maybe that's why that show ended. Like they just like had to keep pushing and pushing and pushing these narratives, and it's like
Well, that's kind
so
of what's
degenerate.
I'm starting to realize. I used to think that they made shows that were reflective of what culture was. What I'm realizing is they make shows of
To tell
what
us
they want you to become.
they are telling us what they want us to
When you
become.
watch a
Yeah.
show, they're saying this is who we're going to become now.
Yeah.
This
So
is
so
this is the
yeah.
reality we're creating.
So they've got like one of the main characters in this show. He runs a tattoo shop and he's got all these tattoos and he's like, oh yeah, he's like totally cool with the trans thing. So they're pushing this idea onto like anybody who's watching this show that this is cool and don't say this. You got to say that. Say this the right way. And I'm
And
like,
it's isn't
ew.
it weird how once the scales fall away from your eyes, you can't watch Netflix without seeing the social engineering.
Social engineering all over the
You
place.
just see it.
Yeah.
Like I saw it in Bird Box. That's when I got rid of it. I remember
Mm.
when that show came
Yeah,
out
I
with
never watched that.
Sandra Manhater
Yeah,
Bullock.
I think she might be a man.
She might be a man.
Yeah,
I think she hates men.
yeah.
She just looks
It's
like,
because she is one.
yeah, maybe. I just feel like she's like if I met her, she would just be like so disappointed in me in every way, shape, and form. Just like, oh my God, you're such a disappointment. I really can't stand you. Like, so, anyways, that Bird Box show,
Was that a show or a movie?
it was a movie.
Okay.
It was a movie, but it was a Netflix movie.
Mm,
It was like, we created this. It's
hmm
not Hollywood, it's Netflix. Which we talked about how Netflix is from that Bernays Freud camp. Like the grandson of Freud is the owner of Netflix.
Right. And
And
isn't
they're
like
like Tavistock Institute.
yeah, and he is I think isn't one of the like George Soros's son or nephew involved in that too and some
George Soros, his son, I think, is like full on cult.
oh he's total cult.
I don't know.
Complete.
I
Yeah.
haven't heard about his nephew, but I know that Netflix is basically social engineering. And
Yeah.
I think what we're kind of seeing in the ghettoization of culture is they have successfully engineered our culture to become degenerate.
hmm
And shows like that do that because they espouse a religion.
hmm
Like, oh, you sleep around, first of all. Sex is a very casual thing. and you just kind of fuck whoever,
Mhm.
whenever, and there's no like marriage, and Christianity is antiquated.
Yeah.
That's so no,
There's no yeah, this show definitely pushes like not getting married, and
no.
even when two people like who have been in love with each other finally get together, then they like break up because one of them doesn't want to get married, and it's like, what, but this is what you wanted all this time, and now you've got it, but no, we can't have that. That's too
Well,
normal.
that's kind of the dystopia of degeneracy, right? Is they're kind of always bummed.
Hmm.
Like if you
Always
notice,
bummed, right?
these
Yeah,
people, their
they're
lives are just so unfulfilled
yeah,
and so lame, but yet they still want it. And
and
it's like, I want this.
yeah, the only like fulfillment they have is like going to work, you know.
That's like my identity. It's how I make my money. And that's another thing I notice about this ghettoization is it's very financial centric. Like it's all about having a perfect credit score, and they all are always calling attention to their financial wherewithal and
Hmm.
like the house that they own, their lifestyle. All of that's very, very important.
But what's interesting is, so like they look and act total ghetto, but because the media has made that to be the cool thing, they are the influencers and they're making all this money influencing people to be ghetto. And so they're living in these big fancy houses that are like, they've got like kind of trashy like furniture and stuff in there, but like they look big, like a
Yeah,
big fancy mansion, and they're driving like the fancy cars,
yeah.
and so the people that watch them and who are like their followers are like, wow, look at, all I have to do is be super trashy like that person, and I'm gonna be cool. And
And that's kind of like what's happening. And they have their money and they have their sex and they have their vacant, unfulfilling, miserable, dystopian lives. And isn't that very Brave New World?
it is.
Because in Brave New World, they're kind of like fucking everybody.
Yeah,
And
totally.
then,
Yeah, these people, like, they all have like 15 baby mamas and
yeah,
like kids with like five different guys.
yeah.
It's kind of gross.
And like schmortion is kind of like something that they just do. It's like, oh, I got pregnant. It's no big deal. I'm going to go take care of it. They
Or
like a
they,
lot of those girls have probably had like four abortions.
yeah,
Kill
before they had their five kids with their six different men.
Oh, so that I didn't. Okay, so they're actually procreating. Okay, because that's another thing that's kind of like hip now.
Yeah.
Like Elon's kind of setting the
Yeah.
trend.
Just like having like multiple kids with like multiple different people. Like, no,
It's
don't bother getting married and having like a stable family.
no,
Just whatever.
that's the social engineering is definitely attacking the
Mm.
family,
Hmm.
and then also
That's a big whole point of it.
yeah, and then cramming tranny stuff into it
Hmm.
is social engineering because the tranny idea is breaking down the idea that you are born the way that you are. Everything's social construct.
Yeah.
No, like
Even
gender is social construct.
even like gender could be what on the spectrum. Like, how are you on the spectrum? I mean, this is biology and science. There are
Yeah.
only, if somebody wants to say that they're a woman, but they're a man and they're just dressed like a woman. I mean, they can say it all day long, but all it takes is a blood test. You
Well,
know what I mean?
they've had these
It's
guys who
pretty cut and
call
dry.
themselves women. They go, "I'm a woman now. I need to be locked in the female prison because they're convicts
Because
going to
I got
jail."
arrested for rape, but
Yeah,
now I'm a woman,
now
so
I'm a
I
woman,
need to be in the female prison.
and then guess what? They rape again,
Yeah.
and they go rape
And then
more.
they want the government to pay, they want the taxpayers to pay for like their procedures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's
They probably
they're
don't
entitled to that.
they probably don't get rid of all the stuff because then they wouldn't be able to like,
To rape more.
yeah.
They want to kill this because rape is like really important to them. They're like, I want to be able to rape. So, but
Being locked in a women's prison is
yeah,
ideal.
exactly.
I'm just gonna put on a dress and say,
This was my
call me
goal.
Susie.
This was my goal all along. And I'm wondering, like, okay, so like they're pushing all this like tranny stuff, and I'm thinking that might be pushing this idea that everything's a social construct.
Hmm.
Everything.
Yeah, because if you can say gender is on a spectrum and like
Yeah.
what is a woman, nobody can seem to answer that question. Then yeah, basically anything could be just
Marriage is just a social
yeah,
construct. And, it's kind of like getting back to Nietzsche, too. It's kind of a reactionary. It's like everything's anti Christian because
yeah.
Christian is patriarchal. Oh
Hmm.
my God.
Hmm.
You think that I should be your wife? You don't
Right.
own
And
me.
we hate America.
Uh. What I noticed too is like young girls hate me like really bad.
Really.
Like just,
Your
you're
team, yeah. Well,
you. Because
I've heard,
just by being me, I kind of represent something that they've learned to hate.
I know, and I've heard that like the young generation now, like the 18, 20 year olds, that they don't even like really want to date.
No, they've
I'm
been
like, what?
programmed out of that.
That's so weird. So I think that and the transy thing is part of the depopulation thing for sure. Like
Yeah.
if you're cutting off body parts, you're not going to be reproducing. But then you've got the other ghetto people who are having like five kids with like six different partners. So
But I think that's kind of like
the sixth one is like, wait,
the breaking down of the
is that my
family.
kid?
If you're gonna have sex, no family.
Yeah,
That's kind of the gist of it.
yeah. No family
You
unit
no family unit. You can have sex. Okay, I understand. Okay, but
or not.
yeah, you can totally be celibate, and then that's perfect. Being like a celibate, like
And not having the parts to actually even do it.
you just kind of live.
That's fine. We like that. We
You get a
know we
coffin
know we
apartment, some
will
bugs.
procreate from that.
They're actually the perfect model.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's why they're pushing the tranny thing, because the perfect model for the cult is you go chop off your sexual organs, because then you're not going to have any
You're
desire.
not going to pose any like
You
risk to
just
us of having
eat crickets and then die in your coffin. And that's like perfect.
I think it's really sad though, like these kids that are falling for this
Yeah.
garbage. I really think it's sad because they are obviously getting brainwashed, by social media or school or whatever, the media, to think that this is cool and this is real and this is legitimate and this is what they should be doing.
But see, I don't feel
And
sorry for him though.
I,
Because that 90210 was being foisted on me, and I was like, "Ew, I don't want that."
right, right.
But they're kind of going, "No, but I desperately want to fit in."
I know. I mean, I can see that point too, but there's a part of me that like I feel like maybe those kids have been so medicated and brainwashed their whole life, like through pharma and indoctrination and possibly being even medicated in the womb, like their moms were probably medicated. And so now this generation is coming out and they're just blindly following the garbage that the media is pushing on them. And it's so horrible because and then they have these parents that are medicated that are going along with it and like taking their kids to go get their body parts chopped off.
Oh my God, these parents are horrible.
It's horrible.
Like the one girl that I told you about that had sex with 100 dudes in one day.
Yeah.
Her mom arranged it.
That's so sick.
Her mom was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make you a star."
And that's how you're gonna be a star.
Yeah, and kind of like
I'd be proud of that.
kind of like Tiger Woods' mom and dad like made him
He
like
made
a
him,
pro golfer.
yeah.
There,
At
she's
least
like,
he was doing something.
yeah, and she's like, "I'm gonna make you
positive.
a porn star. It's
Great.
gonna be great." So the parents are
The
to
parents are
blame.
pushing. Yeah, I mean,
Because you're not. See, like what you have to do is you have to talk to your kids daily,
yeah,
and you have to tell them, because I don't want I don't want kids to not consume culture and not consume entertainment, because I consumed entertainment,
yeah.
and I had a lot of fun watching movies, and it's funny.
I think maybe most of them weren't as full of manipulation as they are now. Maybe
No,
not quite as bad.
no, there was things that were, entertainment was the number one driver when we were younger.
Yeah.
Now I think entertainment's like secondary.
Yeah.
It's conditioning first.
Yeah.
That's when I watch Netflix, I feel like the entertainment value comes like almost it's almost like
It's a side effect.
incidental. It's incidental.
Yeah.
What we're really doing is during our social engineering session here, you might be entertained.
Yeah. Totally.
Because
Totally.
it feels like that. It
Yeah.
feels like that's the main thing.
Yeah. I mean, like these shows, like the one I referred to earlier, it feels very like once you're aware of it, it just feels very in your face. like
Well,
really hardcore pushing
have you
these
seen this
things.
whole thing about Snow Brown? That's supposed to be Snow
Oh,
White, but she's Snow Brown.
yeah.
She's really mad, right? So she came out
The
and
actress?
the actress, I can't remember her name, but she came out and she was real mad at the patriarchy. And she was like saying, oh my God, yeah, the first Snow White had just such antiquated values. Like, I don't need a prince to rescue me.
Well, that came out in like the 50s, right?
1930s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they really hate that. Where I feel
They
like
hate those old-fashioned values.
I feel like that's what we should actually harken back to.
I
We should
know.
probably like play just Snow White the way it was and say, guess what? Like, get your tattoos erased and be like this.
Mhm.
Let's get back to that because that was a more wholesome time. But I digress. So she came out and she said all this stuff, and then it backfired and the movie bombed, right?
Oh, God.
They lost
Yeah.
like, because it costs a lot of money to make it.
Yeah.
And so they lost like millions and millions of dollars, right? And so what they're kind of tripping out on is it's like, well,
What?
why?
The
Why
people don't want this
people
garbage?
don't want that?
Yeah.
And it wasn't entertaining.
Hmm.
The movie wasn't entertaining. The whole movie was about, guess what? Snow White's not white. And she's kind of like not quite black, but brown.
Why do they have to push that all the time too? Like they made
So they
that.
had this lady come on, Stu Peters,
Uh-huh.
and she talked about it, and she made a really good point. She said the movie producers don't care about profit anymore,
Right.
and they don't care about entertainment anymore. The number one thing is social
That's
conditioning.
it. Because they did the same thing with Little Mermaid too. They had a black Little Mermaid. It
So
was like,
lame.
what? I
Black
mean,
girls can't swim. No, maybe that's more like. But yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, that was based on a Disney animated movie from like I don't know what 25 years ago.
91.
Yeah, and like that's not how the Little Mermaid looked. So why are you making this look so much different? You know what I mean?
Everything's being like black eyes.
Yeah.
Like they had to make Joan of Arc black, which I'm pretty sure Joan of Arc wasn't black.
No, and even like when they did the live action Beauty and the Beast, there was like this beautiful scene where they were all dancing like the waltz in this fancy room, and there were a lot of black people, and I'm like, I don't think that
You mean that little
this is
provincial
accurate.
town?
I don't think this is accurate.
No, I'm
I
pretty
mean,
sure that was like a European provincial town that
yeah,
took place
I
in.
don't think it's accurate. So it's like they're putting stuff into these movies that isn't even historically accurate.
I don't think it matters if it's accurate. I don't think it matters if it's entertaining. I think it's just they're desperately foisting this on us. Kind of like it feels like Weimar Germany 1935.
Hmm.
Like we're just completely polluted with this degeneracy now.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of it's kind of a
And
crisis.
they're pushing that idea so that the followers, the walkers that we like to
Yeah.
call them, will follow along and be like, oh, I'm gonna be like that. And then more and more people become degenerate and debauchery takes over, and
Yeah.
the elites can, be up there in their elite cloud of
Why do they have to
happiness.
attack white people and whiteness? Is it because white people and whiteness created the first world and the first world values that we espoused?
Maybe.
And like, if you look at like that movie from 1964, Cape Fear with Gregory Peck,
Mhm.
like all the white people had a really clean town. I didn't see any spray paint, and there wasn't any gangbangers, and there wasn't really a lot of people walking around like with their asses hanging out. Nobody had tattoos. Everybody wore suits. The cars were super nice. The schools were the best in the world.
Yeah.
The crime rate was extremely low. As a matter of fact, the whole plot of Cape Fear is this guy is
He was the anomaly.
he was the anomaly.
Mm.
He's the criminal, and it was like
Really unusual.
really unusual. Whereas that guy would be kind of like a rapper now.
Yeah.
The Cape Fear guy would be like he would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's why they have to attack white people because white people kind of espouse the first world value system that they need to kind of destroy. Why do they need to destroy that? Because I think that if people have families and are informed
And they
and
talk.
they talk, and we have, what if we had communities that were safe
Hmm.
and we had good schools? Then maybe
And you know your neighbors.
and you know your neighbors, then maybe the cult wouldn't be able to have such a stranglehold of power. But the cult can really have power over tattooed, like sexually promiscuous, like sluts. They're probably going to be easy to control by the cult.
Totally.
And they're driving that. They're like, so like these Netflix movies and series, they're not representative of reality. That's kind of from our conversations, I've kind of had that epiphany. That's like a main epiphany. Shows are not reflective of reality. Shows are driving
Reality.
a reality. They're saying
reality is reflective of the shows.
yeah. So like Younger, that show, right? The lifestyle of all of the characters is what they're saying is what we want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we want you to behave.
Mm-hmm.
This is the values we want you to espouse. Now, of course, you're not going to have the money that they have.
Right.
You're going to be broke, but you can play pretend and at least have their kind of shallow, materialistic worldview.
And you can go get a bunch of tattoos and
Yeah.
sleep around, and
Yeah.
you can at least have that part, that aspect of
I'm
it.
gay this week.
Mhm.
Good.
Yep.
That's in keeping with what we are kind of teaching you.
Yeah.
Like have a gay week and just go and like, have butt sex for just 1 week and then go back to being a regular guy.
Yeah.
That's cool. We're happy with that because they're driving that kind of behavior. And I'm thinking they're attacking whiteness and like morality.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly.
I think so too.
Like they really hate white people. Like a white male.
Mm-hmm.
They hate.
Well, there's like a big push for, like I said before, for people to just be like, whatever, anti-heterosexual.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Anti-hetero is basically because what is hetero? It's like all the lesbians, they hate hetero. Why? It's like it's patriarchal. Do you understand? That's the patriarchy. Well, can you break that down a little bit? Well, yeah, like white males running everything and they're in control. That's patriarchy. We need to get away from that. And it's like, well, okay, so what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is we have very loose morals and homosexuality is good. Like, who was it? Do you remember David Hogg?
No.
David Hogg was the guy who kind of almost seemed like an actor.
Oh, the one the crisis actor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like at the Parkland High School when the shooting.
Yeah, and he was like at a few of those shooting incidents.
Just randomly.
He's
just like there and
yeah.
he's like, well, now I'm an activist. Well, I remember I don't know why he was being asked, but he was like, well, first of all, gay people are awesome. And then you have like
all gay people.
All gay people are awesome, just by default. And then like Lady Gaga, she had a song like Born This Way.
You think Lady Gaga's even a lady? I think she's a dude.
I think she might have been made in a lab.
Yeah, possibly.
She's probably like what they rolled out.
Yeah.
Because look at her messaging.
Yeah. Oh, she's total cult messaging.
You know what I'm saying? And like one of her big songs is like, I was born this way.
But doesn't that kind of go against their whole thing about like being able to change it? If you were born that way, but now they're saying, "Oh, I don't know, I can just change what I was born in."
Listen,
her song might be transphobic.
Kind of.
Oh,
so
somebody better call her out on that.
I thought your sexuality was a social construct and your gender. And now
you're saying you were born that way.
You're born that way? How patriarchal. She's probably like, oh shit, I need to go change my song.
I need to go rewrite that one.
Yeah. I'll say not born this way. I'll just put, but
born this way, but changing.
But changed. But like, she also kind of like is a perfect prototype because she's like, I mean, the thing is she's kind of sweet and I don't want to be mean, but she's not smart. She's not smart and she's not very moral.
Not very moral at all.
She's kind of like, I like that Marina Abramovich lady.
Ew.
Yeah.
Doesn't she like eat babies?
Eat babies. I put blood on walls and like stuff.
And call it art. And I
Yeah.
have these big art openings, and people come
Yeah.
and like pay a lot of money to see my blood all over the wall because it's like artistic.
Like she was at some like buffet where she was like the main course, and she's like brought out like on a buffet, like, like eat me. And it's like, well, I don't know.
I know, like
It wasn't sexy. It was
these
like
people gross. Like if you showed this stuff to people in like 1950, they'd be horrified.
they would be.
It'd be like a horror film.
They would
You
be
know what I
like, you
mean?
need to be locked in the mental institute.
Yeah,
That's what they.
you're actually crazy.
Yeah. In the 50s, they didn't put up with that kind of
No.
stuff. Like if you started, like just think about like living in small town America in 1954, and you just go show up at the grocery store as a tranny. Dude, it's not going to work out good for you.
No.
First of all, I don't even think they would arrest you. You would probably just get beat to death.
Or actually, I think they would probably just haul you off to like the mental institute.
You're a mental
You know what I
institute.
mean?
That was what they had.
Yeah.
We had those before.
Yeah.
I mean, they were horrible.
Do you think, oh my gosh, you know how they closed down all the mental hospitals
Yeah,
not too
during
long
Reagan.
ago?
During Reagan.
I wonder if that was all part of the plan too.
I'm thinking
Like,
so.
nobody's crazy. Mental illness is an illness. You
Well,
know, like they
what
decided it
like
was an
what
illness.
defined crazy? It was like there was sane, and what was sane? Sane was like living like a respectable human being.
Hmm.
You didn't have a bunch of tattoos. You were married. You kept a job. You stayed in a relationship. You raised your own children. That's a concept. Like you actually, the one child that you have, or maybe two, you actually spend your whole life with them,
Yeah.
devoting your life to them. That was kind of like sane. Insane was like, I get tattoos and I sleep around and I kind of just like, you know, sometimes I'm a different gender.
Heads up, someone's going to be coming in 5 minutes.
So, anyways, I felt like that was kind of a weird, um, that was kind of like a weird thing, like where people could get locked into a mental institute because they weren't sane. Whereas now, being insane is kind of like
Cool.
the cool thing to do.
The crazier, the better.
And I think that's all been kind of like the dumbing down. And what I think is the ghettoization, like the Kim Kardashian values.
Yeah.
Why is she the big influencer? And I believe she is. They always say she is the influencer. I would say that's probably
She's like the epitome of like the ghetto situation. The
she is.
glamorized ghetto, I'll call it.
Yeah, like if you ask Kim Kardashian, you're like, tell me what you know about the Civil War. You know, she'd be like, well, it was Iraq, and
She'd
no.
be like, well, you know, that was a really important war, I think.
Yeah,
But, you know, it's not really something that I like to talk about.
yeah. And if she did know anything about it, it'd be like totally canned political response, political correct response. So I think she's kind of like the perfect prototype for the ghettoization.
So maybe she was cloned
Probably.
with the dire wolves,
Does she have kids?
supposedly.
Yeah. I mean, they made kids that are like she has cloned kids that are supposed to be her kids,
Yeah.
but I don't think she's raising them with the father. Right? Kanye. He feels like he feels like a clone too.
Well, they say he was cloned because he started to talk about like certain things that they don't want people talking about.
Yeah.
You know.
So
he might not be around anymore.
he got sent to the unalive
That
island.
island.
Unalive island. Well, that was an interesting.
That was an interesting rabbit hole.
Yeah,
sure.
It was kind of I don't know, a little ominous, maybe a little.
It was.
It kind of got a little dark, but at the same time,
dark for us.
Dark for us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the white pill is that people can, as quickly and easily as they kind of got brainwashed into this, they can kind of get snapped out of it.
Yeah. Put on a suit, put on a nice dress, and
Well, what you and I have always said,
classy.
What you and I have always said is once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't put it back in. So once these people kind of start to wake up, we're going to be good to go.
They are actually here. It is one.
All right. Well, good talking to you.
You too.
Good seeing you. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.